Hello, and welcome to the 50 Women Over 50 podcast. I'm your host, Sherrilynne Starkie. On this show, my goal is to highlight women who have broken barriers, challenged the status quo, or who have simply lived remarkable lives beyond the age of 50. So far, my guests have included pioneering entrepreneurs, passionate activists, artists, educators, and so much more. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered as together we extol the lives of 50 exceptional women over 50. Today I'm welcoming to the show Marie Fitzpatrick, who I've known for a few years now as we both volunteer together for our professional association, the IABC. She's a leader among professional communicators and has had a successful career, first in journalism and now in public relations. She's a divorced mother of 2 adult children and lives at the beach with her little dog Riley. She's not in a relationship, but she's out there dating and meeting new people all the time. And so I invited her on the show to learn what over 50 dating is actually like. In this interview, she shares her bountiful optimism and joy for each and every day. Marie, tell us all about your 50th birthday.
So for my 50th birthday, I went to New York City with a group of girlfriends. And New York is a special place for me. I'm actually half American. So my mom traveled to New York in her mid-20s, literally got on a bus and went there to study music and met my dad, had my brother there, and then had me back in Canada when they had moved back here. I always feel her when I'm in New York City. Like I sense her there. I have some relatives there, and it's a good place to be it's a beautiful city.
And so were you there for just for a weekend or?
Yeah, it was about 5 days. Went to a lot of jazz clubs, ate some great food, went to a high-end steak place to celebrate my birthday. Met up with a high school friend who was the stage manager for Kinky Boots.
Oh, yeah.
And he said he worked in a lot of much smaller theaters to get there. So it was kind of nice to celebrate it with a bit of high school memory as well.
Yeah, nice. But how did you feel when you were coming up to your 50? Were you like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me? Or were you, how did you feel about the milestone?
I would say nervous. Nervous wouldn't be the word. A bit of uneasiness about the unknown. Before I was recently divorced, so I was starting a new journey. So I had to make a lot of decisions. The children were then almost young adults in their older teens. So really had to think about what kind of life I was going to build for the next chapter for myself.
Yeah. So I've interviewed a few divorced ladies as part of this. You're interview 37, by the way, of my 50. And I'd say probably a third of them have been divorced at some point in their lives, not necessarily when they were in their 40s or 50s. But one thing we haven't talked about is dating.
Yeah, trying to get out there and date. I often joke with people that online, I've tried that. I've tried the subscription online. I actually just go out a lot, go to listen to a lot of bands, go to jazz concerts, always say yes to things, barbecues, gatherings. I find meeting someone first person is better. And I'll tell you why. I'll share with you. Everyone's on their own journey, especially when you get divorced in your 40s and your 50s. Some people are rebuilding their wealth. Some people have gone through a terrible divorce. Some people like me, it just kind of happened and you're able to navigate it. So you really have to understand who you're meeting with may not have had the same experience as you. I really try to be kind, but I will tell you, I joke with my single girlfriends that if there's 1 or 2 red flags, I'm okay with that. Especially maybe the house went to for the children to continue to grow up in. So you're rebuilding wealth, or you had to move to a different city because of different career moves. Things like that are okay. Maybe you went back to school. That's kind of interesting. Or you started to travel. But when you get 2 or 3 red flags and it starts to feel like a construction site, as I say, like you kind of go, okay, thanks for the coffee or thanks for the glass of wine, but not really feeling it. I try to be upfront about it. There's a lot about people ghosting or not returning texts or calls. I pretty well know after like an hour or so, are we on the same path? Do we have the same values? Do we like the same things? It gets tricky though with people that are a little more persistent but they're not understanding it and you don't want to be rude, but it is definitely a challenge. But I think if you have the right attitude that you're just meeting people, you'll do okay. And so I'm out there just meeting people.
Right. So there's no special someone?
Not as yet. I mean, I dated someone for a couple of years and then another for a few months. I really know where I am with myself and what I'm looking for. And it's a saying, everyone says it, but I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. I have lots of friends. I have a fantastic life. Things are good, but it would be nice to have a partner in crime to travel with and do some things with. But until then, I just kind of keep going on and meeting up with people and enjoying my life with my friends.
Well, one thing that you said that surprises me because, I mean, all indications are the opposite. It's like I thought that everything happened online now. Like that's how people met potential
It's true.
partners. Yeah.
Absolutely true. Like I still have one subscription one that I'm going to end with. I just find people are much more energetic and interesting in person.
Mhm.
And really, a lot of the apps, it really is about looks, right? And then you meet somebody, you think, oh, wow, they really have captivating eyes, or I love how they told that story. And you don't always get that in the app.
Mm.
I think also for my industry in particular, being communications, I do meet with a lot of women leaders. And so there's not a lot of opportunity to cross paths with a man in a work setting. So
Yeah.
certainly the apps to help. I know friends, it was second marriages have worked out beautifully and they met on an app.
Mm.
But I also know friends where it becomes too much and they just feel the rejection. So I don't want to go down that road. I try to balance both.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's dating like though? Like I've been married 30 years, so it's a dim memory for me. But like, do you go halvesies when you're on the bill, or does the guy pay, or what goes on these days?
I can. I mean, I'm old fashioned. So if someone has asked me out, then I'm expecting that they're taking me out. If they ask, where do you want to go? I'm very careful with that. I prefer that he choose the restaurant or the bar for the drink or the cafe for the coffee. If they really press me, then I'll send 2 links of this is like a local pub that might be fun, or do you want to do something a little more like a wine bar? Because again, I want to be very careful of people's budgets. Everyone's on a different spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if someone is asking me out, just like I'd ask you out, hey, you want to grab lunch? We haven't caught up and I really want to hear about something. And, it's on me. I'd love to catch up with you. Well, if someone's asking me out, I'd like to know more about you. I wouldn't do halfsies. And in fact, it's never happened for me, but I do have friends where it seemed to be indicated at the end of it that somehow because the date wasn't going any further, oh, I guess we're paying half. So I think great. I raised my son to be a gentleman and my daughter to be a lady and to be nice to people. And I just think that's just not nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about being nice.
Do you think you'll marry again?
I would like to marry again. I liked being married. I was pretty good at being married. For my ex and I, it just didn't work out. We're on 2 different paths and the kids were older. But I really believe in marriage and I believe in, but I didn't have a bad experience with it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't any infidelity. It simply was just a matter of he wanted to work a lot and I wanted to travel and start to enjoy not being so on it with the children and having to parent nonstop. They were becoming adults. So my perspective might be a little bit different than others, but I do believe in marriage and I think it's a nice thing.
Okay. What advice would you give your 30-year-old self?
So I would give my 30-year-old self any advice. I'd give my 20-year-old self a lot of advice. My 30s were great. I was able to luckily stay home with the children. And I went through a journey with that, even thinking about feminism. Feminism for me is not about working, having a career, trying to do it all. Feminism is about having choice and supporting each other with their choice. So I had a neighbor one time when my daughter was first born, hand me a card for a live-in nanny, and she knew I was an executive working communications, and this would be a great source of support for me. And I said, no, I'm staying home the first couple of years because that was my choice. And I was actually very, very lucky that I was able to make that choice. So my 30s were pretty great, but my 20-year-old self, I would say have more fun. I just worked 2 jobs like many people. I went to the toughest journalism school in the country. I went to Ryerson, what was then Ryerson, now Toronto Metropolitan University. So when we opened up the doors, basically Yonge and Dundas, and it wasn't pretty like it is now, downtown Toronto is pretty gritty. Those were the stories you were going to mine. And my 20-year-old self worked a lot. And we did a lot. It was a 3-year get in, get out, get your degree, journalism degree. So I just remembered being tired all the time. I was speaking with a friend who's out in BC, and we were just chatting about that. And other people in other courses were partying. They were having such a good time. If I got to the pub by midnight, I'd be like thrilled that I could grab a beer with my friends in my 20s. And my 20s were really, it helped shape me. But you're watching a lot of news programs. Back then, I was a journalism student. You're just trying to absorb and learn and learn and learn. And the professors, Peter Mansbridge, right? Mark Starovich, who produced, and Barbara Frum with the Journal. Even Stuart McLean, his fame now will always be the Vinyl Cafe, but he was head of broadcast then.
Right.
So you really had to bring it. And a lot of us were working a lot of jobs. So we'd meet up at midnight. And I'd also tell myself to relax a little. You don't have to be perfect. When I was done J school, I got the offers. It was all good in the end, but don't remember. It was pretty well a blur from 19 to about 25.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you doing for fun these days then?
I work out a lot, so I've been going back to the gym. I took a wine tour a couple of years ago, and I saw people with a lot of mobility issues, and they were only in their 60s. So I very much start working out. I go probably 3-4 times a week to a great gym that's more like a spa for me. I really invest in myself, in my health. I read a lot. I'm part of 2 book clubs. One happens to be in the wine region, but if you have to go down there to read a book, I guess that's okay too. And I don't know, just hang out with a lot of friends. I do see a lot of live music.
Yeah.
I really miss the live music with COVID. And so I try to support my friends who are musicians. I went to a high school that was kind of like Fame. So I have friends all over the world that are musicians. So whatever city I'm in, I try to find live music.
Yeah. I missed live music a lot during the pandemic too. The first show that I went to was July Talk.
Okay.
And it was their first show from the pandemic. Yeah. And I didn't realize how much I missed it until I was there. And I was like, oh, yeah.
I mean, and there's some positive things that happened with COVID, but that was not one of them. I mean, we all picked up other hobbies. I learned how to chalk paint antique furniture. Who knew? Started cooking again and getting back into cooking fancier meals and all of that. The wine regions all expanded. So they all have restaurants at their vineyards. Before they would have charcuterie and that's it. But they had to stay open. There's some really positive things that happened with COVID, but losing that live music and watching my friends struggle, that was tough. That was tough to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember my sister, she's in my bubble, invited me over to watch a live performance on her screen. Like, that's what musicians were trying to do to make money, right?
Yep.
You're performing from their living room and charging you $10 to watch their performance.
Yeah. Facebook concerts. I had one friend did a lot of Facebook concerts, and then you just transferred a donation and that's what they had to do.
Jeepers. I'm glad that's in the past.
Yes.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
I always have a 10-year plan, a 1-year, a 5-year, and a 10-year plan. So in 10 years, I will have finally written a book, if not 2.
Okay.
I'll probably be traveling, more likely the south of France, and really just exploring more of the world. When I was in my 20s too, I didn't do that trip to Europe, I should say, after college. Again, in my 20s, I was supposed to go to Italy. My friend is Italian and British, so we were supposed to go to Italy and England, and it was all lined up. And I said, but just wait. I have an interview for Canadian Press, but it's the print version, and I'm a broadcast major, so it's not for broadcast news, but I just want to go. And she goes, okay, but we're going to Europe, right? I said, yes, we're going to Europe. So I never did the Europe trip. My friend went. So now I know in 10 years, I will be all over Europe. And the last 5 years, I will say I've traveled more than I've traveled my whole life. Probably 15 trips.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids are grown. It's time to get going and exploring the world.
Yeah. I'm kind of at the other end of that now, though. Like I used to travel a lot. Like I was never home.
Yeah.
But now the grandchildren are here, and I'm like, I don't want to miss it. I don't want to be gone for a 20-week trip through Southeast Asia and miss a quarter of their year. Yeah, I'm in the sweet spot where I don't have the grandkids yet. Mm-hmm.
And friends of mine just did that. They spent 3 weeks going through Thailand and all over Southeast Asia, all of that. But they were on 3 months. But again, nobody's married yet and there's no grandkids. So you have that window, I think.
I remember when I was a kid, I loved my grandma, and she used to go down to Florida. She'd leave after Canadian Thanksgiving, day after Canadian Thanksgiving. She wouldn't come back till May. And like, it was tough not seeing your grandma all that time, you know?
Yeah, I can imagine.
I don't want to do that to my grandchildren. It's not something I afforded my children. I was totally comfortable doing it with my children, but not my grandchildren for some reason. It's a different dynamic.
Yeah. And I think if you've traveled for work and lived in different places like you, it's different. But for me, I was pretty well set in the same spot for 20 years.
Yeah.
So now's the opportunity.
And what are you most hopeful about for the future?
I guess I'm most hopeful that people will have learned kindness during COVID. I worked for some pretty...
Have you looked at the headlines? Because they don't seem very kind to me.
I know. I mean, but at least you're hearing journalists on the jazz station show kindness. You're hearing people talk about kindness. During COVID, certainly I know some of my friends and myself drop off meals for friends that couldn't get out or couldn't get delivery service of where they were living. So I'm hopeful that we're going to emerge with a bit more kindness and thinking about our health more. Everybody's now thinking about their health. Let's not worry about the drain on the infrastructure of our hospitals. Let's try not to get there.
Yeah.
Again, let's like reverse this conversation where any pub you go to, someone debates about taxes and healthcare and are we doing the right thing and the wait lists. Well, if we get proactive about this and you start thinking about it, certainly in your 50s and certainly for women, just you're at a different spot in your life. So really put yourself first. And it's not selfish to put yourself first when you're thinking about your health. It's actually a benefit for everyone to do that.
Yeah. So I work with Veterans Hospital here in town, the Pearly Health Facility. Yesterday, they had a 100th birthday party. They do this every summer. A 100th birthday party for everyone that lives there that's turning 100 in the calendar year. There was 29 celebrants yesterday.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That's the most they've ever celebrated. And they've been doing this for 6 years. What are you reading? What are you watching? What are you binging?
Well, like everyone else, I did Firefly Lane. I kind of like that.
I haven't seen it.
It was a bit of a story. I certainly wasn't running around like the main character, but the journalism zeal was the same. And my best friend growing up, she's a veterinarian, but she certainly was the more conservative, calmer personality. Just whatever my book club is recommending. What am I binging? I don't know. I think too much Facebook. I love seeing my high school friends, and they're all on Facebook, and they're all over the world. I spent a lot of time doing that.
Yeah.
I do like Instagram as well for design ideas. I'm a bit of a design person as well, I'd say.
Are you volunteering in the community or giving back in any way?
Right now, no, just with my communications association. But it's funny, looking at one of your questions, I really believe in volunteering. And when things happen for a reason, if you can turn a tragedy around. So I remember when one of my very best friends, her nephew was killed in a skiing accident. He was 14, total innocent, hit a tree. And my children were 6 and 10. And this is like a second family to me. So I had to try to make sense for them. And a flyer came by for a new basketball association. And the gentleman who was leading it up, he had 150 scholarship offers when he was in grade 12. He was a big time community leader in the Jane Finch corridor. I'd heard good things about him, and my son was thinking about switching. He was a little bit who you knew in the little basketball association he was in. So I literally jumped on in and was the founding member of this basketball association. And to this day, 200-300 kids go through it. But I chose a charity and helped build something for 14 to 16-year-olds. Mm-hmm. So it's very much, but even for my volunteering, I tended to look for charities that my children were probably involved with, but the basketball one was probably the one I was the most proudest of.
You talked about Facebook and Instagram, but is there another app that you couldn't live without?
Another app that I couldn't live without. No, I would say Facebook's the one because my friends are all over the world. And I was first a Facebook snob. I was only friends with high school friends who weren't around me. They lived far away. And then I let others sort of in and then see my world and what I'm doing. But I would say that was my favorite app. Yeah, that's pretty well it.
Yeah. Okay. I like to ask that question because I get good tips.
Yeah.
Like, what about Chat GPT? Have you checked it out yet?
Yeah, not really. I don't know. I'm almost in information overload. I don't know about you. I don't even go on Twitter anymore. It's just a bunch of people fighting and a lot of reading. And I read enough. So and it's all political and then it's contrived now. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it's
I
really,
don't like Twitter anymore either. But
yeah,
I've got like 10,000 followers there, so I'm kind of committed to it. I used to have 14,000, but Elon Musk took all the fake accounts and the bots out, so I lost
right.
4,000 followers that way. I mean, they weren't real people, but the number.
You did go, you got a bit of a hit there. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what though? I've been loving TikTok. Like it's entertaining the way Twitter used to be. Like people just being silly and cracking jokes and not, yeah, there's a few ranchers there, but you just scroll by them real quick. But I'm really enjoying TikTok. I could sit there for an hour and just scroll TikTok and,
it reminds me of that dopey show when people like almost would hurt their children doing stupid stunts, like America's Funniest Videos or something. Like that's what it looks like. I don't know. I'm not a.
There's all kinds of stuff on there now. Like it's gone pretty mainstream in the last year or so.
Yep.
When I first started experimenting with it, it was all people dancing. I was like, "What? This makes no sense." Like what? But there's a lot of other stuff,
and they're badly dancing too, right? Yeah.
But this anyway. I'm enjoying it. I find I would rather do that than doom scroll on TV. Try to find something to watch on TV. I would rather just scroll my TikTok and get these little 3-second funny hits rather than.
Well, oh, you just asked me something what I'm watching. I do like the Bridgerton and the historical pieces.
Yeah. Bridgerton's not really history, right?
I know, but it's still good. I just love how they mixed up all the cultures and races. I love it. I think it's just, but it's so well written. And I love all those sort of historical shows. I am liking those as well.
Did you see the one that's the prequel about how the Queen Charlotte became the Queen?
I love that. I thought it was really good. I thought the young actress was quite good.
Do you have an over 50s life hack?
What do you mean? Like, give me an example of that.
Well, the way other people have answered it was like, I think the smartest one I heard was a woman who said, don't be afraid to have a nap. If you're going out at night, have a nap because it's going to make going out at night a lot. Just like ways to make life better as an over 50s woman.
Okay, so the way I approach it in my 50s, it's almost like wake up your life and shake up your life. Like do something different. Don't be resigned to whatever happened before. Like really. So I think my 50s try to really wake up and shake up my life and start traveling, doing some things, trying different things, going out to things that maybe I wouldn't have gone to before. So I guess that would be a life hack.
Yeah. Keep it fun and interesting, eh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Don't be afraid to have fun. Maybe that's it. Don't be afraid to have fun.
That's a great
right? Because then when you're a working mom and when you're a stay-at-home mom, you're still working.
Yes.
As a good friend of mine, one of my best friend's mother said, working is working. And whether you're paid and you're at home or you're paid outside of the home, like you're still working, raising your family, doing things or maybe you don't have children. Yeah. And maybe you don't have children, but you're still working and doing things. For the longest time, your 20s and 30s, when you do things for yourself, society, your neighborhood, your community, your friends, you're almost made to feel guilty about doing things. So in your 50s, I don't know, wake it up, shake it up, do whatever you want, as long as you don't hurt anyone and you're kind, right? Go through life with kindness. And that goes back to the dating. Not kind. Yeah. Many years ago, I was at a communications conference and there is a young woman walking behind me and our hotel was quite far away from the conference because that first night we couldn't get a hotel. And we were chatting and she was younger and we're just chatting. And as we walked through the Florida night going, okay, let's stick together. And she said this to me, so I can't take credit for it. She said she read somewhere, just because something ended doesn't mean it wasn't successful.
Yeah.
So I think you can date and go out there and be friendly, be kind, and meet new people. If you really think about that, like I have 2 healthy, wonderful children. I've got a great career. The marriage, for the most part, was very nurturing and very positive. When it ended, it didn't end badly. It just, Robert Frost went down a different road. That's all. So if you have that and you keep in your mind, okay, it was still successful, but I'm going to do something differently, then you're open to meeting new people.
Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you'd like to include?
As women go through their 50s, I think they're afraid of the change. But if you embrace it and think of it as an opportunity, you'll do just fine. And you'll hear stories about women losing all their wealth, losing the house, then they got ill, then this happened, then that happened. Just block it out. You're on your own journey and you can have fun with it. You can go through your 50s and really start to focus on things that you like to do or that you want to learn. And if life wasn't so great before 50, make it great after 50.
This has been 50 Women Over 50, a podcast for women whose personal confidence is born of experience. Thank you to my guest, a true leader in the Canadian communications profession, Marie Fitzpatrick. What I learned from this interview is that Marie really does live life on her own terms. What I already knew is that when Marie is around, there's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm glad that she could bring her sunny pragmatism to my show. See the show notes to find links to some information about the people and things that we mentioned in today's episode. Thank you for listening, and if you like the show, please share a link to it with your friends and colleagues, and drop me a rating or a review on Apple or wherever you get your podcasts from. The show is also on YouTube. Please follow me on social media. Let's connect. Let's create a whole community of wise women over 50. We'll see you next time on 50 Women Over 50. I'm your host, Sherrilynne Starkie.